It has been quite a long day, and the day is not over. Today is actually election day, so we'll be tuning in just to see what's going on with the state of our country. But today was an interesting day. It's definitely been a very productive last few days, and focusing on the habits has tremendously helped. Just because I remember like before implementing and really paying attention to what I was doing on a day-to-day basis, I did feel myself just slipping into this routine of not accomplishing much during the day. So, it's been great. We made a bunch of calls today and I've got some more leads. So yeah, I'll be showing you guys a little bit of the process after making the calls since I showed you guys kind of how my phone pitch was going yesterday. Um, so, how we're sending out emails, how we're making offers, and what we actually pulled in from yesterday. So before I get into that, I met actually this pretty cool kid. For those who seen the numerology video, you guys know I study, the lesser known sciences of the world. And for everybody who doesn't, believe numerology and astrology, like, oh, energy, like, bro, do you believe in psychology? Can you touch your mind? Can you see your mind? So it's the same concept. There's things that humans don't understand. One of the greatest things that humans don't understand is how time works. Okay? We don't have time machines, and time travel is largely hypothesized. So, if you understand time, then, you could make an argument for or against numerology, but most people don't. But what we can make arguments for is the clues, the fingerprints, the evidence that shows that there is a link for numbers, time, and energy and its effect on things that happen in the world. So, without going on too long about it, met an interesting dude born year of the dragon. We're currently in 2024, year of the dragon, and he definitely sparked some interesting thoughts. And the reason for it is because, it started off just mentioning something that I saw him riding around on like this little hoverboard thing. You guys have seen like the one wheel in the middle. It's a really cool thing, but I've never seen one like up front and close, getting to talk about it. So we started chatting. And then, I mentioned I'm gonna be smoking that Kamala pack tonight because I'm expecting my boy Trump to win, but we'll see what actually happens. Obviously, we're not in the complete clear yet. And just for an explanation for why I think it's important Trump wins, you know, global peace is important. Like, think about the way the human body works. Our body is made up of billions of cells. And imagine if the cells in your body acted the way that humans do. This is my life. I'm gonna do what I want. Imagine like if you know, your body thought the way that human society and like Americans do. We would all have like cancer and fucking it would just be a mess. It would just be a mess. So, where's I going with this? Oh, so, when it comes to global affairs, when there are wars, there are dire consequences, not just the impact of loss of life, which is a big enough issue as it is, but, especially when you have wars in areas like the Middle East, where, it's affecting countries that are exporters of oil. Oil is energy, and energy drives the world. There's a saying, you control the food, you control the population, you control the energy, you control the continent, and you control the money, you control the world. And so these people who control the money, who control the ability to fund wars, when wars happen in places like the Middle East, it causes the cost of energy to increase. And energy is used for everything from food production, tractors, to transportation of goods, airplanes, ships, cars, everything involved with things that people buy on a day-to-day basis become more expensive to have access to. And this impacts everyone, not just Americans. And so you have to think global leaders, who are they going to respect more, given America is the global superpower? You see, given America is the global superpower, when there is a weak leader in charge of the ruling nation of the world, other global leaders take advantage of the opportunity to push controversial agendas. This is why after Joe Biden stepped into office and we pulled out of the Middle East, and all the nations of the world are watching how equipment is left behind, how the population is just left completely, in a mess. The Taliban's now able to come back in, take control, and they're literally parading around our military equipment because we didn't pull out correctly in an organized fashion. Vladimir Putin took the opportunity to invade Ukraine. Now, when it comes to Ukraine, many of these eastern states that are in between Russia and, the West, the states that are in NATO, are the eastern states, the Eastern European states. And so these states, when Russia dissolved from the Soviet Union to what it is now, and it broke up into all these smaller countries and then larger Russia, these eastern states that are in between were never supposed to join NATO. And slowly over the years, over the decades, one by one, they've gradually started joining up to the point where now nations that directly border Russia were being considered to enter NATO. This was perceived as a security threat to Putin. And because he knew Joe Biden was a weak leader who wasn't going to do shit, he invaded Ukraine. And while Joe Biden's a weak leader, obviously America still funded, Ukraine through NATO. And the reason for it is because, you know, it was used as a proxy to weaken Russia. We sent a lot of equipment that, allowed Ukraine to fight off the Russians for a little bit. And obviously, given many Ukrainians are ethnically Russian, Vladimir Putin wasn't just going in there with the intent to just completely obliterate the people living in the country. But nonetheless, it was still a hit on Putin to, lose soldiers, to lose equipment. And so, regardless, he knew that this was going to be easier to do with Biden in charge rather than Trump. And so, again, he decided to invade Ukraine. And as a result, everybody noticed food prices became drastically more expensive. Russia is a huge producer of energy. Again, I've explained energy drives the world. On top of this, then you have things like October 7th, ironically enough, is Vladimir Putin's birthday. And guess who Hamas is founded by? It's funded by Iran. And Iran just so happens to be in good cahoots with Russia. Now, when it comes to Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu was not in good favors with the people. And so, reports are there's this terrorist organization that's getting ready to attack your country. The longest sitting president of the world was able to stay past his 2 terms because the country got pulled into war in the United States. And so October 7th happens. Benjamin Netanyahu is now, able to rally the people behind this cause that, Hamas is attacking their people. And, he's remained in power. He hasn't got booted from office yet. And so, again, the Middle East, a major producer and exporter of oil, of energy. This affects the economy. And so, when it comes to Kamala Harris, she's been in office for 4 years. Nobody respects her. And China definitely doesn't like fucking Kamala Harris. Like, I want you to think about the most powerful leaders in the world. Do you think that Xi Jinping is going to respect or at minimal fear Kamala Harris in comparison to Trump? You see, when it comes to China, China is very close to Taiwan. Very, very close. And Taiwan is still recognized by China as part of China, even though the United States tries to say, oh, it's independent. And it's this whole gray space of whether or not we actually recognize it as independent or part of China. But I promise you, China will make it very clear if Kamala Harris was elected that they don't give a fuck what she has to say. Taiwan is part of China. And right now, we control the superconductor chips that are produced in Taiwan, which are involved with everything from phones to computers to cars to advanced military equipment that allows the United States to maintain its supremacy in the military battleground. And that itself is what upholds us as the global superpower. Because our relations with the Middle East, the petrodollar, make sure that countries have to use dollars to buy oil. That's exactly why we had gone in and bombed the hell out of Libya and obliterated Gaddafi so that there was not going to be Africa now using its own currency backed by gold to be able to purchase oil and step away from this petrodollar system. Every time that countries have tried to go against the petrodollar, we have used our military to end that. And whether you agree with it or not, I'm sure you do like the standard of living in America. In America, being poor means that you've got multiple vehicles. It means you've got $1,000 iPhones, TV, internet. Look at what poor looks like in a real third world country. Okay, so whether you feel good about what America does or not, we benefit from it. And I'm sorry to say, but I like the fact that I'm born in America and things are the way they are. So I'm not ready to just give that up, especially given it's not going to just be given up so everybody can now have equal opportunity. It will shift to whoever holds the biggest stick. And right now, China's stick is getting bigger. And I promise you, if they take Taiwan, especially in a way that allows them to maintain production there, that gap between our military advancement and their military advancement, the deficit, China will catch up. So it's in our best interest that we maintain control of China. And I'm not saying like Trump becoming president is going to make sure that China never invades Taiwan. It probably will happen within the next 20 years. But I would rather it happen in 10, 15, 20 years than it happen in the next two. Because if she is president, the likelihood of that happening drastically increases. So this is why I think it is important that we have a man that is at least respected and feared by the other mobster rulers of the world. It just is what it is. And all these other policies, I'm sorry, but the most important focuses of the federal government should be protecting its citizens and protecting its economic interests. And us losing Taiwan will mean America will go to war. And we will be sending American sons, American husbands, American fathers to go die in these wars. So we're at a very pivotal point. And, essentially where I was going with this after we got on a tangent is this guy that I met, we're talking about these things. And it's very rare that people actually discuss these important issues because it's not comfortable for people to really look at what is important and then have to reframe their perspectives because they don't align with what matters the most. A lot of times people identify with their beliefs. And so when their beliefs are challenged, they feel like their beliefs are attacked. They take that as a challenge and an attack on them. And because typically people will, hold their beliefs as a standard, when other people hold contrary beliefs, contradicting beliefs, they are perceived as unintelligent or, stupid or, like they're just not looked at in a positive light. There a lot of times people will just get wrapped up in the belief itself rather than trying to understand why the belief exists. And so it's important to have discussion, to talk about things that, are going to challenge you to think differently, that are going to challenge you to either defend your points or force you to change them. And so basically, what I'm trying to illustrate in the lesson of meeting this guy is it's important to talk about these things. It is important to discuss the issues that will impact not just us in the immediate future, but our children and our grandchildren. So I like politics. I like history. I like science. I like understanding why things happen. And I think if we can all learn to adopt a similar way of going about learning and growing and exploring the world, it'll lead to a much better place of unity and harmony. Because unity is not about us all just being the exact same person and thinking the exact same way. It's us learning how to work together and use the differences to become stronger as a unit. So, yeah, that was I think that was like the most important lesson of today, or at least like the most important lesson that I want to share here. But yeah. I'm gonna leave it here actually, because like I'm pretty sure there was a good amount of mic drops in the things that I just said, and I hope people take into account the things that I just said and really consider their position as far as whether or not they're acting on the things that I just discussed. We're at a very pivotal time in history, and so it's more important than ever that we learn to look past the differences, and it's important that people learn to use their differences in thinking to, again, become stronger as a population and become stronger as a species. So I hope everybody voted because it is a time that will go down in history either as one of the greatest comebacks or one of the greatest downfalls. But with that being said, I will see you guys on the next video. Peace.